Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Don Haviland, and it's August 2024. I am the outgoing department chair. I have about 2 more weeks left in my term, and then Angela Locks will be taking over. I did, though, before I go, wanted to share with you all a little orientation video for our dissertation committee chairs and committee members. And we do this together because it's really a collaborative effort, and we like to make sure that people that collectively know what's going on in terms of what everybody's doing and what everybody's working on. A little bit about our agenda for today. We'll talk a little bit about the basics of the dissertation, then the chair, second committee member, and third committee member roles, the proposal defense, and the final defense in terms of what it looks like and the general goals. I guess I want to, before we jump in though to the nuts and bolts, just say a word of thanks. You're here on in this little orientation video either because you are on a committee and serving as a chair, or you're thinking about that. In either case, we're really appreciative that you're taking the time to do this, that you're considering serving on a committee. We rely on our faculty and our professional colleagues in the field to serve on our doctoral students' dissertation committees. This is what makes it possible. So thank you very, very much. So a little bit about some of the basics in the college in Cal State Long Beach. Our EDD dissertations all have to connect in some way to the topics of urban education and social justice. And so as we help students shape their dissertation topics, we make sure that we are continually keeping those topics at their forefront. And that's just something important to keep in mind as you're thinking about chairing and or serving on a committee is how can we keep bringing students back to what does this mean for urban education? What does this mean for social justice in some way, shape, or form? The dissertation process formally starts in fall of the student's second year in the program. So we're sort of ramping up to it throughout, but it's in their fifth semester in that second fall where they go through the process of chair selection and assignment. And the ethos of that process is that it's a student-driven, student-focused, collaborative and supportive process. So it's really important. Our students, they go around, they speak with people who might be prospective chairs. They decide who they think would be the faculty who might be their best fit, and they have two faculty sign a form saying they're willing to serve the student's chair, and then the department chair assigns the student's dissertation chair. But the key, Ray, is the student is making these choices along the way, and they're getting a lot of support from others, right? So other faculty. So as a collection of faculty, our ethos is to help students have the best chair assignment process possible and to help them find the best chair possible. Sometimes that means that's not me. Sometimes it means that as a student, you learn this other faculty probably is going to be a better fit for you, even if the student may not know that at the time. So that's part of our ethos as a faculty is to help students find the best fit possible. Students then move forward with their chair from that fall point on, and they work on chapters 1, 2, and 3, their proposal. It's embedded in coursework, and we hope that they're expected to end that summer with a copy of their chapters 1, 2, and 3. In mid-fall, usually it happens in October, sometimes it happens September, sometimes even November or December. Students do a proposal defense. We'll talk more about what that looks like in the future. By late fall, they're collecting data, hopefully, do data analysis, maybe even doing a little writing and revision in the early spring. And by late spring, usually the last day to defend is sometime around late April or very early May. At that point, then it's the time for the final defense. They'll make revisions and they'll graduate in May. Just like that. There are a variety of supports for students, and I think it's really important that dissertation chairs and committee members know all of this, so you can see what the program does, what students have access to. Certainly, the chair and the committee are probably their primary sources of support. Kim Word, our associate director, supports our students in many ways, including our dissertation students. They have access to writing coaches. We have an IRB liaison who is a full-time, full professor here, Paul Ortana-Sirapong, and he is on the IRB, but more importantly in this case, he actually reviews students' IRB applications before they go to the board to make sure they're as strong as they possibly can be. The dissertation is embedded into coursework, as I mentioned, for chapters 1, 2, and 3 for students, and that's a huge win, I think, for students. Students have a large dissertation group. They meet monthly with the department chair. It's kind of dissertation at the 30,000-foot level, but I think more importantly, it allows the department chair to have their finger on the pulse of the students and kind of get a read on, are some students struggling, are they having a hard time, and intervene more proactively whenever possible. Students also sit in a small dissertation group once a month. It's a student, their chair, a couple other, one, maybe two, three other chairs and their students. That's more organic. It's a problem-solving group. They practice presentations. They support one another with, say, recruitment problems, things like that. Students have access to two faculty who are quantitative and qualitative methodological coaches for help with data analysis during their dissertation. They have access to analysis software like in Vivo and SPSS. And then each student has a dissertation fund. They can use that for recruitment, for incentives, for editing, for transcription, whatever they need to support their own success during the dissertation process. As a dissertation chair or role, those of you who are chairs probably already know this, but the dissertation chair role requires a full-time College of Education faculty member with a doctoral degree. You become a chair in the fall of the student's second year, and the student then continues, as I mentioned, their coursework on chapters 1, 2, and 3 through the following summer. So that because the student is working in the coursework, there's the student, there's the course, and then there's you as the chair. There's kind of like this little triangle. And as a chair, you're only expected to meet with students twice a semester, fall, spring, and summer. Some chairs do more, and that's fine. And you're giving the students guidance on, well, are we gonna have you do a quant or a qual study? Let's think about what your theoretical or conceptual framework might be. Let's think about, in that last summer, what are your methods? Well, let's design your instruments. Let's make choices about who will your participants be? And then the ongoing work of how do we sort of broaden, extend, and develop the literature review as we go along. And so you're meeting with the students twice a semester to guide them on that as they go through the coursework. And then also dissertation chairs are expected to participate in we have a committee of dissertation chairs. So all the dissertation chairs meet in the department once per semester, fall and spring. The dissertation chair duties definitely ramp up in the student's year 3, the second year of their dissertation. At that point, all coursework more or less stops for the students. Everything they do is related to their dissertation. And so it's up to the dissertation chair then to assume the full leadership of the student's dissertations once the courses are done. That means helping the student make final decisions about all aspects of the study. It means bringing them to the proposal defense and the final defense. To make that happen, you're meeting with the student at least monthly, probably emailing more frequently than that. You attend small dissertation group meetings once a month with your students to support them. You also participate, like I said, in the dissertation chair meetings once per semester. And then the dissertation chair, of course, leads the proposal defense and the final defense. If you're a second committee member, the criteria means that you need to be a full-time College of Education faculty member with a doctoral degree. The department chair can make some exceptions to that, but it needs to be done intentionally and obviously with their consent. The role of the second committee member varies. Typically, it's somebody who maybe provides content expertise, so they know a little bit about the student's area for their dissertation, might help the students sort of figure out finding some lit and things like that. Other times, the second committee member might have methodological expertise. For instance, I don't do quantitative research. If I'm doing a quantitative dissertation, I make sure the second has quantitative expertise. As a second committee member, aside from maybe pitching in here and there, your general expectation is that you come to the proposal defense having read the work and providing substantive feedback. And then the same with the final defense. Again, depending on the committee, depending on the student, the second committee member, may be a little more involved. Third committee member, this person is really important because we want this person to bring a very practical orientation to the dissertation. So this is a person who comes from an area of practice related to the dissertation. They hold a doctoral degree, but we want that person to bring expertise related to policy and practice to help students really think about recommendations and, well, if you found this, what would that mean in my day-to-day work as a professional? So sometimes that person often may provide professional visibility for the student, helping them expand their professional network and maybe look at career advancements in some ways. And just like the rest of the committee members, you'd want to read the proposal, read the final dissertation, attend both defenses, and provide meaningful feedback along the way. A little bit about the proposal defense. So typically, as I mentioned, these happen in the mid-fall semester. You should expect as a committee member 3 weeks to read the document. The committee can agree by consensus to shorten it to 2 weeks, but the department doesn't approve shortening beyond that because it's important for the student. You need the time to read it and give some meaningful feedback. And it's good for the student to step away a little bit from the document and think and pause a little bit before they go to do the proposal or the final defense. Notably, this is a closed defense, so it's just the student and the committee. And for this reason, I often like to think of this as kind of a working meeting. And as a committee, your job, I think, is to guide the student and help them get to a study that is rigorous and high quality, but also doable. So I've been in proposal defenses where we've suggested they scale back, where they've asked fewer research questions or change and shrink their sample of participants. So it's whatever's going to get to a good, doable study. You should plan for 2 hours. There's a presentation of up to 30 minutes. There's the committee Q&A, the committee deliberation without the student, and then the decision that's given to the student. And I always like to think of these, both the proposal and the final defense. So at this stage, the student has been working on their dissertation at least a year. By the time spring rolls around, it'll be a year and a half. And 2 hours is enough time to give the student have a meaningful conversation and to give them substantial feedback in a way that honors the work that they put into the document and the whole process. At the end of the proposal defense, you'll receive a DocuSign where you have to kind of check off and sign on the result. Typically, that's confirming that the student has passed. And then the final defense. So usually the final defense is in March or April. Again, expect 3 weeks. You can shorten it to 2 weeks to read the document. The dissertation chair, just as in the proposal defense, the chair leads the process. This final defense is in person. As this sort of, what do I say, kind of summative activity for students. It's really important to bring people together into the same space. The students can opt to also have a Zoom option for their guests. So maybe family and friends can't make it, so on and so forth. But the committee is expected to be there in person. Again, plan for 2 hours with roughly the same layout. You'll receive a rubric a day or two before to score the dissertation along criteria, like you kind of rate each of the chapters and then overall academic sort of presentation of the dissertation. And the goal in this final defense is kind of twofold. It is to recognize the students' good work, to honor them, right, with the work with your time, because they've been working on this thing for so long. But it's also to push their thinking. There's an element of rigor to the defense, even as we're cheering our students on. We also want to help them get as much as they can from the experience and really push their thinking. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next. So when we brainstorm as a faculty what we think the elements of a good final defense are, we talked about certainly recognizing students' good work, but we also talked about like really pushing their thinking to support their learning and growth. Because so much, it's one thing to do the document, but so much happens in the conversation that takes place in that final defense. So have conversations related to the overall rigor. Does something need to be strengthened in the methods chapter? Are the findings really the most significant findings? Do the big ones pop? Are they well supported by the data? And the student does that. Policy and practice recommendations. This is especially important for third committee members. And we really want them to bring to the fore, like, what does this mean in terms of policy? What does this mean in terms of practice? What might I do where might you take this in terms of future research? And we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. How might you disseminate this? I think students sometimes think that with the dissertation defense, it's all done. My life's work as a scholar is done. And of course, that's not necessarily the case. They can opt to make that be the case, but how might they apply this in the workplace? How could they get visibility for their work? How could they help others learn and hear about the lessons that they've learned through their good work? We do ask, if you're reading the dissertation, both before the proposal or the final defense, if you see anything that you think is really amiss, that really might pose a challenge in the defense, again, back to sort of our collaborative ethos, please reach out to the dissertation chair in advance, let them know, let them know what your questions are, what your worries are, and then you all can engage in a committee in terms of problem solving so that the student has the best experience possible. And I had alluded to the fact, what would a student do after the final defense, apart from revisions and the things that the administrative stuff that goes with finishing the dissertation. But we want to encourage our students to share their good work. And so if you come to the defense thinking about, well, where might they want to share this and how? Maybe it's presentations at work sites. Maybe it's newsletter articles and commentaries on blogs or local papers or something like that. The department also has hosts postdoctoral scholarship opportunities. So we support students very modestly, but to write academic papers or to develop policy and practice briefs. So these are things that our alums get excited about after they finish their dissertation because they don't want it just sitting on a shelf. They'd like it to see the light of day so that others can benefit from it. So I think engaging in those conversations and knowing those opportunities are out there afterwards is really important. So most importantly, thank you, either for serving now or for your willingness to do so. And good luck. I hope you enjoy the process. It's the students, I think they all consistently work really hard on this. They benefit from committee members who are engaged, thoughtful, good critical friends to them along the way. And so I hope you enjoy the process. Thanks again.